So far, I've made a life up video for almost every avatar we know of, and all that's left besides the two main avatars from their respected shows is the very first avatar, Avatar Wan. In this video, I'm going to break his character down and explain his story, but this video will be a bit different. Instead of just straight information, I'm going to take a deeper look at his story and break down deeper meanings throughout. Before we start, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a Movie Flame video. Also, there will be spoilers for all Avatar content, especially Legend of Korra. Now let's get started. In a world before the Avatar, a time when humans and spirits weren't separated by two different worlds, when the bending nations were unheard of, and the power of bending lay in the hands of the lion turtles, there was a peasant boy named Wan. In this time, humans and spirits hated each other. Spirits had come from the spirit world and taken over the real world, and they were able to do this because the dark spirit Vaatu watched humans evolve, or as he called it, come out of the mud, and he hated them. He wanted to put a stop to these humans, so he let the spirits run free to torment and scare them. After Vaatu opened the portals to allow the spirits to do this, the two realms intersected, and over time, more and more spirits drifted into the humans' physical world. Because of this, the humans were forced to split apart and settled on the backs of lion turtles, which housed cities, and the lion turtles protected them from the spirits. The spirits in this time were much smarter and more powerful than the humans, and the humans lived in fear of them. The spirits knew that there were different lion turtle cities, while the humans had no idea, thinking that their lion turtle city was the only one in the world. Each lion turtle possessed their own element that they could give to their humans, whether it be water, earth, fire, or air. And they gave their element to the humans for protection when they went into the spirit wilds to get food for their people. The peasant boy named Wan resided in the lion turtle city that held the power of fire. In the city, the Chus ruled over all, and they were bathed in riches and unlimited food, while peasants like Wan and his friends Jaya and Yao starved half to death. Unlike other peasants, however, who believed that some people have power and others like themselves don't, Wan refused to believe this. Wan did have an advantage over the other peasants though, as he could move like no other, and this allowed him to continuously steal food from the Chus. But one day he was caught and had little to show for his troubles, having only one small piece of bread. Right away we see Wan possess traits that we would later see in future avatars. He's very powerful and agile, he's selfless, and thinks of others before himself, the biggest example being the fact that he gave his food to his friends and the animals, taking nothing for himself. And we see that he has a natural way with all creatures, many different kinds of animals coming up to him for help. And like any avatar would, he gives his food to them without a second thought for his well-being or his hunger. I think while watching this, most people believe that Wan is a humble and honest man. Because he's the first avatar, he's selfless. He's supposed to be everything you would expect from the first avatar after seeing so many wise avatars after him. But as I myself took a deeper look at his story, I'm going to go against the public's opinion and say that Wan is in no way humble or honest. In fact, he's quite the opposite. Wan is a trait that many villains have, and that is the fact that he craves power. When he's told that he has no power, he has an evil smile and says, "Not yet anyway," which also shows how unhumble he is. He has no doubt in the world that he can do things that others can't, and this is a constant theme throughout his life that I'm going to point out whenever it comes up. Wan is also very dishonest. His biggest goal at this point in his story is to simply steal from the Chus, and while they might deserve it, this is very dishonest and not what you'd expect from the first avatar. On top of that, he manipulates people, the greatest example being when he joins the hunters into the spirit wilds just so he could get the power of firebending from the lion turtle, only to lie and say that he's scared so he can return to the city and use the firebending that he stole to steal more from the Chus. And to top it all off, he's breaking the #1 rule that the city has by bringing firebending into it. So as you can see, he's not the most honest or humble guy. He is, however, very selfless. After breaking into the Chus fortress, he allows all of his friends to escape while he held the Chus off. And when he's captured, he refuses to tell the Chus who helped him, even though he knows that this will lead to him being banished from the city and sentenced to life in the dangerous spirit wilds. It's also worth mentioning that he has the chance to take one of the Chus' life, but he opts out, and the Chu boy says that even when he has power, he's afraid to use it. Another early trait that most avatars possess moving forward, especially Aang, who refused to kill Fire Lord Ozai. The lion turtles allow Wan to keep his firebending before being banished to the spirit wilds, and we see that fire is the first element in the avatar cycle. As Wan is banished to the spirit wilds, he literally goes crazy over the first night that he's there. The next morning, however, he finds a spirit oasis. When he's denied access, we once again see Wan try to manipulate others by posing as a spirit to get in, but seeing his spirits are much smarter than humans, he obviously gets caught. Now, breaking this down and looking at deeper meanings, one thing I'd like to point out for Wan's character is a pattern that I noticed. Every time Wan does something untruthful or arrogant, it's immediately followed by showing Wan's selflessness. First stealing from the Chus to get food, and then giving all of his food to others. Then breaking into the Chus fortress, but protecting everyone with him even though he knows he'll be banished. And this time, after trying to manipulate the spirits, the scene that follows is one where he finds a captured cat deer, and for a moment, he considers eating it because he's starving, but then he realizes that the right thing to do is to set it free. While doing this, however, he's confronted by the hunters that he manipulated earlier, and he uses his knowledge of the spirit wilds to hold them off, and the spirits seeing this help him and save his life. They put him in the water of their spirit oasis, which heals him, a small nod to future waterbending healers like Katara. The spirits, impressed with his selflessness and care for living creatures, take Wan in and give him food, and from then on, they trust him. After the spirits say that they had never seen such an act of selflessness from a human before, Wan again says that he's not like other humans. Another arrogant line of his, this time showing how he sees himself as better than other humans. This shows that he's very cocky, but this is part of Wan's personality and one of the reasons why he's able to do such great things. It's so far from what you would think the first avatar would be, but ultimately it fits. Wan eventually says that he's done with humans for a while, and he chooses to stay in the spirit wilds and learn the way of the spirits, something that no human has ever done before, mainly because the spirits did not allow this to happen, as they hate humans. But something about Wan was different. As he said himself, he wasn't like other humans. He was able to connect with all living life like no other. Wan befriended the cat deer that he had saved, and after naming it Mula, it became the first avatar creature, something that many avatars after him would have, like Appa for Aang, Nala for Korra, or even Fang for Roku. Wan might have had the ability to firebend, but he was no master of it, and this was true until he learned from the very first firebenders, the dragons. They taught him how to make his firebending an extension of his body. After training with them, he was able to move with his bending like no human had ever been able to do before, and the classic movement known as the dancing dragon was created, a method to teach people how to firebend that would live on for the rest of time, and we saw Aang and Zuko use in the original series. Wan used his firebending to protect the spirits from humans that came from his old city, and when the men returned to the city with tales of Wan's insane power, Wan's actions inspired his old friends, Jaya, Yao, and many others to leave the city ruled by the Chus. They got fire from the lion turtles and opted to live in the spirit wilds just like Wan. They however did not possess the ability to connect with all living things the way Wan could, and because of this, they became a threat to the spirits, destroying all life around them. After spending a lot of time learning the ways of the spirits, Wan eventually said goodbye to them, and he journeyed to find the other lion turtle cities. On his journey, Wan met Raava and Vaatu, the two spirits that balanced the light and the dark. As they were fighting, Wan became frightened for the lives of the humans and spirits as they caused a lot of damage, and after being manipulated by Vaatu, thinking that Raava was the villain in this, Wan saved Vaatu, setting the dark spirit free. Raava became angry with Wan, and told him that humans had no place interfering in the business of spirits. She was completely against humans at this point in her character's arc, though this would later come to change. After Raava left Wan, he eventually found the lion turtle city that harnessed the power of air. While he was there, however, Vaatu appeared, turning the good spirits into evil ones who began to destroy the city, and Wan used his firebending to hold them off, and with the help of Raava, who eventually showed up, they successfully drove the dark spirits away. After Raava told Wan that as darkness grew, light faded, this being fully represented in how big Vaatu had gotten and how small Raava had become, Wan and Raava chose to team up. The air lion turtle allowed Wan to get the power of air on top of his firebending, but because no human had ever held two elements at the same time, the lion turtle had Raava hold the power for him until he mastered it. Right here is another example of Wan's arrogance and cockiness, as he tells the lion turtle that he's not like other humans, and that he can handle having two elements at once despite the fact that no other human had done this before. And ultimately, it's his cockiness that persuades the lion turtle to grant him this power. This is what separates Wan from other humans, the fact that he pushes himself past the limits of mankind, and why he was the chosen one to begin the avatar cycle. His cockiness might come off as a bad trait, but it's actually one of his best. And the interesting part is that all avatars after him are expected to be humble and not cocky at all, the complete opposite of Wan. Wan set the precedent for what being the avatar meant by doing the very opposite. Now that Wan and Raava had teamed up, they now stood a chance to take on Vaatu, but only if they did it together. Raava gave Wan a warning, however, that they must stop Vaatu before Harmonic Convergence, a time when he will be able to take over and end the world, and she tells him that this will happen in 1 year's time. A plot very similar to the original series, where Aang had to master all 4 elements in around the same time to stop Fire Lord Ozai before Sozin's Comet. This makes Wan realize that he has to master air and find the other lion turtles to gain more power and have more elements to bend. Wan getting air was not easy, however. The only way to do it was for Raava to pass through his body so they could combine their energies, something that had never been attempted before and was very dangerous. Raava was against it, but once again we see Wan's lack of humbleness and insane cockiness, as he tells Raava that they said the same thing about the dangers of living in the spirit wilds, and he did that by himself when no one thought he could, so this should be easy for a man as gifted and strong as himself. When Wan gets the power of air, he realizes how completely different it is compared to bending fire. Ultimately, he mastered it just like he did for fire, and later he got the ability to bend water and earth. The order in which Wan gets these elements will later on decide the pattern of the avatar cycle. First fire, then air, then water, and finally earth. And this cycle repeats for the rest of time. Every time Raava passed through Wan to give him a new element, Wan became less and less human. Every time, he gets an incredible rush of power and his body changes. The more he practiced, the stronger he got, and ultimately, he became less mortal and more godlike, foreshadowing the insane power that he and all of his future lives will have. The avatars may be human, but they weren't mortal. They possessed more power than anybody in the world, and Wan set the precedent for this during his training. He did not hold back, and pushed his human body to new limits to ensure that he could protect the world and save it from Vaatu. Wan got his first test as the bridge between the two worlds and species when he got in the middle of a fight between humans and spirits. The first test was incredibly hard for him, however, because his best human friends were on one side, and his best spirit friends were on the other, both having an important impact on his life during different parts of his journey. After realizing that he didn't possess the power to stop the fight, he had the idea for him and Raava to combine their energies. Doing this allowed Wan to control all four elements at once for the first time, and this stopped the fight for a second, but it almost killed Wan. Raava, who started out her journey with Wan disliking him and all other humans, now grew to care for him, and she saved Wan's life. This came at a cost, however, because without Wan, the fight continued, making Vaatu grow stronger and Raava grow weaker. When Wan woke up, it was his turn to save Raava, repaying her for saving his life moments before. The two had grown close during their mission, and they both cared for each other, so much so that they were willing to die for the other. Raava told Wan that she was wrong about him, and said that she never thought a human was capable of such nobility and courage. She however gave up, thinking that Vaatu had won, but Wan wasn't willing to give up that easily. Wan journeyed to the southern portal of the spirit world, where the mortal and spirit worlds met, and there he met Vaatu. Vaatu laughed in Wan's face, saying that no human could stand against him, but Wan, who was no longer a normal man, responded saying that he wasn't a regular human anymore. Wan attempted to fight Vaatu on his own, but when it became clear that this was not possible, Raava put herself inside of Wan, and the two became one. The two together were insanely powerful, but when it became clear to Raava that if she stayed inside of Wan, he would die, she told him that she had to leave him, but Wan refused, saying that if she left him, Vaatu would destroy everything anyway. He told her that they had to finish it, and they had to finish it together. Wan fought harder than ever, but it wasn't until he used the power of the spirit portal that he had a chance. This put him into what would later be known as the Avatar state, and it allowed him to finally overpower Vaatu and lock him up for the next 10,000 years. Going into the state ensured that Raava being inside of Wan would not kill him, but rather bonded them forever. Wan closed the portal from the mortal world to the spirit world to ensure that no human could ever enter and release Vaatu. All the spirits left the mortal world and went back to the spirit world, and Wan said goodbye to his close spirit friends that he had made on his journey. Wan made himself the bridge between the two worlds, ensuring that he was the only one able to connect and communicate with both. He went on to teach humans to respect spirits so that balance could be maintained. Seeing that Wan was the ultimate protector of the world, the Lion Turtles no longer saw a need to protect mankind in this new age that Wan had started. They left the humans to their own devices and never gave them the power of the elements again. They had to be born with it. Now that Vaatu was locked up and Raava was safe inside of him, Wan had a new mission: to have the different groups of people from all the Lion Turtle cities come together and live as one, though they would be separated by each nation: water, earth, fire, and air. He would use Raava's light spirit to guide the world toward peace, and Raava was his version of past lives that he could talk to and get advice from, just like the avatars after him would have himself and many other past lives to talk to for guidance. Wan's goal for peace was much harder than he thought it would be, however. He worked his entire lifetime to see this goal come true, but in the end, he realized that it was impossible to have total peace all the time. Toward the end of his life, a very old Wan participated in a very bloody and destructive battle that led to many people's deaths. He tried to break up the fight, but it was futile. He lay there on the battlefield, injured and dying, knowing that he had failed his mission and that he had run out of time. Before he died, he apologized to Raava, saying that he had failed to bring peace. Even with Vaatu locked away, darkness still surrounded humanity, and he said that they had run out of time. Raava spoke to him, however, and told him not to worry, because they would be together to make this goal come true for all of Wan's lifetimes, and they would never give up. As Wan took his last breath, Raava left him and went to his next life, and an Airbender was born to be the next Avatar. Wan's legacy had a huge impact on the world, and was one that would stay for all of time. Despite this, his story along with most knowledge of his time was lost over the years. Over time, not many avatars went as far back as Wan for advice, focusing more on avatars that were more current and had more of an understanding of how the world was in that time. A statue of Wan remained in the Hall of Avatar Statues. The statue depicts Wan being embraced by an image of Raava. The statue was unusual, however, because it was wooden, while most of the others were made of stone, and because of this, Wan's statue fell apart over time. Wan was called on by Avatar Korra, his past life 10,000 years in the future, when she lost her memory, and he told her to find Raava to help restore her memory after suffering amnesia. Ultimately, she did this, and heard the story of Wan, and this restored her memory. Korra was one who did not like Wan's decision of closing the portals, and ultimately, she opened them back up to usher in a new era of humans and spirits living together. Before this though, Korra made a grave mistake while fighting Unalaq. Unalaq manipulated her and eventually took Raava out of her and tried to kill the Avatar spirit. This led to all of the Avatar past lives being severed, and Wan and all the other Avatars before Korra were gone forever, making Korra now be the first Avatar in the cycle, taking Wan's place as the first Avatar. Wan was not how you would think the first Avatar would be, being cocky, arrogant, and very unhumble, but he was selfless, and he set the precedent for how the Avatar is supposed to act by doing the very opposite in a lot of ways. His actions made huge changes in the world. He is the reason we have our favorite Avatars, whether it be Aang, Kyoshi, Roku, and so on. Wan will forever go down in history as changing the world more so than anyone else throughout all of time. Thank you so much for watching, guys. You can follow me on social media to see more of my personal life and see more of this little dude. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook for Movie Flame updates. And I want to give a huge shout out to all my patrons listed below. If you want to be featured in the next video, plus get a bunch of other rewards, become a patron today. Again, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you press that like button and subscribe, and look out for more great videos on the way.